Hello, you guys. So we're gonna do our third lesson here. Now there's no PowerPoint for this. This is a little more, this is a little more independent. You kind of have to go out on your own and look up some stuff. So there are some videos here to watch, okay? And your notes are gonna tell you exactly when to stop and watch your videos. I'm gonna put these links in your TeacherEase account so you don't have to, you should just be able to click them and go from there, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of read over your notes with you to make sure you have everything. So here we go. And here's your vocabulary for this week. And I think most of this is going to be defined as we go, so we don't need to go over them individually. And this is basically what we're doing here is we have some review of earth science. I'm going to assume you've had some level of earth science in the past, and this is going to be review or maybe add a little more information for you. Obviously, earth science is not going to be our focus this year because it's physical science is, but it's still important to understand these things. And the Lab Rats level textbook has multiple chapters on earth science. So we want to be aligned with them. All right, so it's also going to give you an opportunity to conduct some labs that are related to earth science, but will help you hone your lab skills, hopefully. Okay, so lesson 3, the Earth's interior surface and structure. So you're going to want to go ahead and watch video 1 now. You can pause me and go watch that video. All right, after you've watched the first video, you're going to want to answer these questions, and all of those answers were provided for you in the video. So geology is the study of planet blank, including its composition. Blank are scientists who study Earth and its processes. Okay. Earth can be divided into 3 main layers: the crust, the mantle, and the core. So the blank is the rocky outer layer, so it's going to be one of these 3, crust, mantle, core. The blank is beneath the crust and is composed of hot, solid rock. The mantle is further divided into 3 layers. Now the mantle, this right here, the mantle is divided into 3 other layers. So if you look here, we have a diagram. It says crust, mantle, and core. And then this portion has 3 other layers. So the blank is the uppermost layer and is relatively cool. So we're talking about mantle, right? What's the uppermost layer of the mantle? The blank, which is beneath the lithosphere, is made of weaker rock. So we've done a top layer. Now we're doing a middle layer. And the blank, located beneath the asthenosphere, is stronger and stiffer. So we have 1, 2, and 3 layers: outer, middle, and most inner. And those are going to go in the order of 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going back on, so we've done crust and we've done mantle. So the blank is the large sphere of metal that occupies Earth's center. It consists of a solid inner core and a liquid outer core. So the core does have 2 layers as well, which are shown here actually in the picture, okay? And here's a diagram of that mantle right there, okay? And the mantle, it shows here the crust, and then the mantle's 3 layers: lithosphere, mesosphere, and asthenosphere, and then the outer core and inner core, which are part of the core. So your 3 main layers. See this little section here? That right there, that's mantle, and then this is core. All right, excellent. Now, if you haven't filled out all these blanks, take a second, fill out the blanks, watch the second video, then come back. Okay, if you finish this first page in the second video, rocks are now classified into 3 major groups: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic, based on how they form. Okay, we have examples over here too, some nice graphics for you to look at. Blank rocks form from magma. Magma is a mixture of molten rock and gas, which forms underground. Lava is magma that flows out onto Earth's surface. Igneous rock forms when molten material cools and solidifies either inside Earth or at its surface. When it solidifies inside the Earth, it's called an intrusive rock. And when it solidifies outside the Earth, it's called an extrusive rock. And here are some examples. So these would be igneous rocks, which means they're formed from magma, An extrusive rock, like obsidian, is formed outside of Earth's surface, so from lava flowing out. And an intrusive rock, such as granite, is formed inside Earth, beneath the surface, from magma. And granite is a good example of that. So blank rock forms over time as sediment is squeezed and cemented together. So that would maybe be this kind of rock here. As sediment is squeezed, this is a good graphic of sedimentary rock, okay? Blank is made from small, solid pieces of material that come from rocks or living things. So let's look. There are different kinds of rocks here, okay? Blank is made of small, solid pieces of material that come from rocks or living things. So what is this talking about? It's talking about maybe sediment. Could sediment be pieces of material? I bet it could be. So geologists classify sedimentary rocks into three main groups: clastic rock, chemical rocks, and organic rocks, according to how they form. So here go our three main groups: 1, 2, and 3 blanks, right? Rocks form from fragments of broken rocks. So blank rocks form from fragments of broken rocks. What kind of rocks form from fragments of broken rocks? Let's see, we've got clastic, organic, and chemical. It says clastic form from rock particles, organic form from once living things, plants and animals, and chemical form from dissolved materials or in solutions or water that crystallize. Sorry, I can't speak. So blank rocks form from fragments or broken rocks. Blank rocks form when minerals precipitate from a solution. So which one of these mentions solution? This happens when water evaporates and leaves dissolved material behind. Kind of like when you take salt and water and you let the water evaporate and the salt is left behind. And then blank rocks form from an organic process, such as the breakdown of living things. Okay, so now you've got your clastic, organic, and chemical in these three blanks. Examples of metamorphic rock. Blank rock has been changed by temperature and pressure. Well, what word means to change form? Like a butterfly undergoes metamorphosis. Maybe metamorphic rocks change form, temperature, and pressure. And here are some examples: gneiss, slate, quartzite, schist, marble, and phyllite. Excuse me. Blank is a series of processes in which rocks change from one type to another. Well, here's a graphic, right? See the graphic? In the rock cycle, forces within Earth and at the surface cause rocks to change form. So blank is a series of processes in which rocks change form from one type to another. So you're going to complete this diagram below. Okay, now this might be tricky. You may need to look some things up. You might need to watch a video again. But you're going to get a basic idea of what happens here. Outcrop is a rock coming to a surface. What happens in order for the rock to form sediment? And then that sediment, what happens to it in order for it to become sedimentary rock? And then what happens with the sedimentary rock right here in order for it to become metamorphic rock? What happens to the metamorphic rock in order for it to become magma? And then what happens to the magma in order for it to become intrusive or extrusive igneous rock? And then what happens to those rocks in order for them to outcrop, which means pop out above the surface, be clearly above the surface. So think about these, maybe look it up, see if you can figure it out, and we'll go over them in class, make sure everybody got them. So now you want to watch your third video on plate tectonics. Make sure that you've completed all of this second section on rocks, and come back when you've watched that video. Okay, if you've finished the third video, all right, move on from here and it's going to make sense. Blank is the theory that pieces or plates of the lithosphere, so the Earth's lithosphere, move about slowly on the asthenosphere. Okay, what do we call this theory? The theory of plate tectonics explains the mechanism for what? For blank, which is the theory that the continents we know today were once joined in a single supercontinent, which then broke into pieces and moved apart. Blank, which means all land, is the name given to that ancient supercontinent. So we once had an ancient supercontinent, it had a name. That's going to go here. So we want the name of the theory here that Earth's plates move about, and then that theory supports a mechanism for something else, which is another theory, that the continents we know have moved around and that they used to be joined together. So there's 1, 2, and 3 blanks here, and here's a really cool graphic. So 205 million years ago, we have Pangaea. Early Jurassic, 200 million years ago, shortly after the supercontinent Pangaea began to drift apart. You had northern and southern land masses 145 million years ago. Positions and movement of continents during the late Jurassic. So that's about 150 million years ago from these pictures. And this starts to look a little more familiar. 65 to 70 million years ago, continents as they appeared during the late Cretaceous period. And then we have Tertiary and Quaternary, and then right here, this looks very familiar, right? Continents in their present locations. Geologic time. Okay, now you're going to watch your 4th video and then come back. All right, if you've watched your 4th video and you've completed this page on plate tectonics right here, then we're going to explain these things: Jurassic, Cretaceous, Tertiary, Quaternary. Okay, this is geologic time. Geologic time, it means the names for the various time periods on Earth, and the time periods on Earth are huge, like millions and millions of years. Geologic time scale is based on relative ages of rocks and rock layers that are used, and the use of radioactive dating to find absolute ages of rocks. So if it says and not a, if this ends here, you know that means something, right? That means that the next word starts with a vowel. So that's a clue. And blank is the longest period of time. So what we call the longest period of time. This next bit says eons are made up of eras. Blank lasts up to hundreds of millions of years. And then it says eras are made up of periods, which last tens of millions of years. And then it says blank are made up of epochs, which can last, epochs, right? Sorry. And then it says blank can last up to hundreds of thousands of years. So words you're looking for in here are things like eon, era, period, epoch, right? You just got to put them in the right order. Scientists can determine the blank of a rock by comparing it to rock in, to rocks in fossil layers above and below. So there's a little typo that, sorry, I found it. So scientists can determine the blank of a rock by comparing it to rock in and fossils in the layer above and below. So when you're looking at a rock layer and you've got rocks above it, rocks below it, and fossils in it, you can use that to determine the blank of a rock. It has something to do with age, but it's not just age, it's specific. Okay, the law of what states that the oldest rocks are at the bottom. This is like if you keep layering sand, okay, if you have a jar and different colors of sand, have you ever seen that, where people put like colors of sand in a jar or a vase and they layer them? The oldest one is at the bottom, right? Because the others all land on top. So this is called the law of something. See if you can find that. Geologists use the law of superposition to determine the relative age of sedimentary rocks from the sequence of rock layers and the fossils within each layer. Geologists use radioactive dating to determine the absolute age of a rock. Blank is the time passed since the rock was formed. Okay, again, the time passed since you were born is age, but it's going to be more specific than age. So this is something age, and then this one is also something age. So here's your geologic time scale, all right? And it shows you the different periods of, not just periods, but eras and epochs and eons and all of that good stuff. So you probably just want to get a look at it, have an idea. Of how old everything is. And then you're going to move on here and do your questions. And that's it for this week. See you Tuesday.